I do a lot of things in my lab in terms of when I'm unsure of a decision. So recently I was supposed to take a trip, and I just didn't know how I felt about it. Logically, it would have made sense for me to go on a trip. I would have lost money. There was just a lot of different moving parts. So I went into my lab and I worked through both decisions. So I said, okay, I'm gonna play it out like I'm gonna go on this trip, and I'm gonna play it out like I'm not going on this trip. And I paid attention to the feelings that I felt and the things that came up while I was going through the motion. And the trip, there was something that I just wasn't feeling right about it. It was something, it felt forced, it felt unnatural, and it felt like I was doing it just so I don't lose money for not going. Meanwhile, the not going, it just felt right. And, so I ended up not going, and it ended up, so I just took a chance, and I thought, I'm sure there's something in the not going that I'm supposed to get, or there's some other benefit for me not going. I came out a lot less anxious and stressed about it because I didn't stress out about this decision. I just, it took me 20 minutes and went down to my level and walked this through, and I asked the counselors, and then that was it. It's, now I'm at peace with that decision. I do a lot of things in my lab in terms of when I'm unsure of a decision. So recently I was supposed to take a trip, and I just didn't know how I felt about it. Logically, it would have made sense for me to go on a trip. I would have lost money. There was just a lot of different moving parts. So I went into my lab and I worked through both decisions. So I said, okay, I'm gonna play it out like I'm gonna go on this trip, and I'm gonna play it out like I'm not going on this trip. And I paid attention to the feelings that I felt and the things that came up while I was going through the motion. And the trip, there was something that I just wasn't feeling right about it. It was something, it felt forced, it felt unnatural, and it felt like I was doing it just so I don't lose money for not going. Meanwhile, the not going, it just felt right. And, so I ended up not going, and it ended up, so I just took a chance, and I thought, I'm sure there's something in the not going that I'm supposed to get, or there's some other benefit for me not going. So I just, so that I came out a lot less anxious and stressed about it because I didn't stress out about this decision. I just, it took me 20 minutes and went down to my level and walked this through, and I asked the counselors, and then that was it. It's, now I'm at peace with that decision.
So you imagine going through taking the trip and seeing what happens, and not taking the trip and seeing what happens?
Yeah, so I've, for example, I got on the plane, so I basically just have these little movies in my head on my screen. I just think, okay, so I'm going to go on this trip, I'm going to get a plane, I'm going to get to, it was supposed to be Costa Rica, so now I'm going to go to Costa Rica, it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be so amazing, I love it. And then I thought, there's just something there's something, that nagging feeling that comes up that just doesn't feel right. As much as like Costa Rica is beautiful and I would love to go, it's always been on my list, there's just something there that shouldn't be there on a trip I'm excited about. So it wasn't in line with what I wanted to do. And then when I chose not to go, it was like, okay, so I'm just gonna work on my blog and things are gonna happen, it's gonna be this way, and it just felt right. It was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I think going would have actually hampered my productivity, or who knows, there was just something there that was, I'm sure everyone has the experience where you meet someone and you just have the nagging being like, oh, we're gonna be best friends, or like, oh, this isn't gonna work. And so I've been using that a lot more to just see the intention of someone. If I'm getting a nagging feeling, to just understand, well, what is it there? Like, are we not compatible? Are we not, maybe this person's not good for me, maybe I'm not good for them. Like, there's something there. And then there's also people with like good energy that I rely on my intuition to pick that up. So, if I meet someone and my gut is like, yeah, oh my God, we're gonna be best friends. Like, where have you been all my life? I know that this is, I just follow that. So it's been, especially when I travel, it's been helping me a lot because, you meet strangers everywhere, and it's never, you never really know what their intention is or who they are as a person. So I have to rely on my inner, I guess, detective. I've had a lot of people offer to help me when I travel. Locals and things like that, and it's not something that logically, don't get help from strangers, right? You never know. But I rely on that inner detective to tell me, like, okay, this person's trustworthy, this person's not. So I just, so I've been putting boundaries when I feel that feeling come up that I'm not in a safe situation. So I know to protect myself, and then I know when, like, okay, this is totally right. Logically, yeah, I just met this person, but I know deep down that, like, they're a good person and they can help me. I trust them more. It's never it's never led me astray. I think everyone should take this course. I think there's such a great value in the everyday, being able to even diagnose yourself or healing or just even relaxing when you're stressed, being able to bring your just your somatic system down to a relaxation level. I think that is, chronic stress. I've had personal experience with that, and it's not a fun experience. So it's so great to be able to have the tools to just soothe yourself and to when you feel that anxiety and stress, to just go back and say, okay, why am I actually stressed? What's coming up for me? Like, why am I angry right now? Because I should be angry. So there's something else there. So it's just to be able to diagnose.
And what about the 3 fingers technique? You said you use that quite a bit.
Yeah, I use it a lot in traffic.
Okay, tell me.
Especially in Toronto traffic, that everything is just takes so long to get anywhere. So I use it a lot to clear traffic. So if I'm going somewhere and I know it's gonna be, I just use it to arrive on time. So I just hold it together and I say, I'm gonna drive well. I'm gonna attract great drivers around me. Everything's gonna be smooth. All the traffic's just gonna clear in front of me. Things are just gonna work, and I'm just gonna get there safe on time. At this time. And it's 90% of the time it's worked. I use it a lot with my dog. So when I try to tell her something, for example, she's barking in the middle of the night and things like that. She's ignoring me when I'm in beta, but when I'm in alpha, I'm her level. So then I tell her like what her benefit is to stop barking, or to stop asking for food on the table, or to, she has issues walking. So I tell her, you shouldn't walk on the snow because this isn't good for you or something like that. So I tell I love her and things like that. I tell I love her beta all the time, but in alpha it's just I'm speaking her language. We're on the same plane, so it's just a lot easier, and I've just been connecting with her a lot more in that way. So the 3 fingers, it's like it's right there. So it's it's such a handy technique. I'm sure there's more than hundreds of different ways to use this. Not being stopped by cops. I've been I don't know if we can publish that. But especially if you see flashing lights or anything, and I just don't break the law, but I just I use a lot of alpha, like, I'm gonna pass through. They're not looking for me, they're looking for someone else, right? I just keep on going. Everything in front of me is gonna go smooth, and I just work the scenario in while I hold the 3 fingers, because I can't necessarily just go into alpha while I'm at the airport waiting for it. So I go in quickly with the 3 fingers, and I just walk to the scenario of like everything's gonna go smooth, everything's gonna be like boom boom boom, I'm gonna get there in 5 minutes, and I do. It's always been a smooth experience. I was on a really long flight, and there was a baby that was crying. So I actually, the first time it was about a 16-hour flight, so he started crying in the beginning, and I actually went into alpha at first, and I talked to him and just tried to soothe him and whatever worries he was having and why he was crying. And then throughout the flight, when he would start crying again, I was using 3 fingers and just remind him that he's in a safe space, that he doesn't want to cry, that he, and just went through all that, and he would stop every time.